Brittney Griner is, in fact, a man. One of the videos that give us cause to say that is this video. It is from her Instagram stories from years and years ago. And when it comes to Instagram, they use a combination of like AI detection and plus manual surveyors to make sure that no explicit content ends up on the platform. So clearly whatever AI detection system was used when Brittney posted this and it stayed up for 106 weeks was not like, oh, this is a female chest, we have to take this down. Oftentimes, if breast cancer runs in a family, women will preemptively get like double mastectomies. And there are some great surgeons out there, don't get me wrong, but I don't see any scars on Brittney's chest that would be indicative of a double mastectomy or top surgery for gender transition.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Wnba Core. Today, we're diving into a narrative that has ignited massive debates across the entire WNBA community. Unverified reports and viral online claims have been circulating regarding Sophie Cunningham alongside alleged DNA evidence tied to Brittney Griner, sparking intense reactions from fans and basketball observers alike. But what is the genuine backstory behind these claims? What facts are actually documented, and why has this specific subject generated such immense traction? Stay right here as we analyze the details and break down everything you need to know about this unfolding controversy. Let's get straight into it. A teenage fan's pro-Sophie Cunningham sign prompted a Seattle Storm co-owner to yell at her, leaving the young supporter crying after being forced to stash her sign away. That's the exact story dominating basketball Twitter for the last 2 days. And this isn't some exaggerated internet rumors either. The reality of what transpired courtside in Seattle is actually worse than the headlines suggest. Compared to a basic game score, it reveals a great deal about the current state of this league. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to WNBA Core. Believe it or not, over 90% of our viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's completely free, takes just a second, but it means the world to us. So, did you subscribe already? Great! Thank you so much for your support. Now, back to the video. Just like that. And then she told us that we were completely out of our minds. Then she went off. She told us, you better stop this right now. And said, I hope God can save you. She said, for you to come in here and pull this nonsense. She used harsh language. Did she say out of your mind or the F word? No, she used the actual word. Did anyone around you step in to defend you? No, nobody. To be honest, when I walked over, you were visibly in tears. Yeah, I've never been shouted at like that before. I mean, I've seen internet hate, but online comments don't get to me because it's just digital noise. But that caught me completely off guard because I expected her to be welcoming, and instead, she started screaming at us. At a recent WNBA matchup, a young fan held up a poster. It wasn't hostile, nor did it target any individual athlete by name. It simply expressed gratitude towards Sophie Cunningham for standing up for female athletes. Yet, a Seattle Storm co-owner walked up to her mid-game and demanded she put the poster away, according to spectators sitting nearby in a packed arena. By the end of the exchange, venue security was involved, and the young fan was left in tears. Consider that dynamic for a moment. An adult executive with a financial stake in a professional team went after a child simply because of a sign she was holding. In that same ESPN feature, you spoke about wanting to protect young girls so they don't have to compete against biological males. Could you elaborate on your position? I mean, I stand by what I said. I view it as simple common sense, and I'll always hold that position. Protecting children is essential, including young girls in athletics. So yes, I stand firmly on my statement, and I'll always believe that. Do you see your advocacy taking any formal shape going forward? I don't know. I don't consider myself a political person, but I hold firm values and morals, and I'll always remain true to who I am. People will interpret things however they choose, but I haven't made extensive statements on it. When it comes down to safeguarding young girls and women in sports, I feel strongly about it. That's why Title IX exists, and why legendary women's athletes were able to thrive. Without Title IX protecting women's sports, you wouldn't hear about female achievements in athletics. So moving forward, protecting that foundation is vital. How do you address critiques suggesting that position could negatively impact or target the trans community? Like I've said, I lead with love and don't hold resentment toward anyone. I believe there is space for everyone and room to show love to all people. A few weeks prior, Sophie Cunningham was asked directly about safeguarding women's athletics during an ESPN broadcast. She didn't offer a softened response or avoid the topic. She clearly articulated her desire to keep young female athletes safe in locker rooms, expressed that they shouldn't face biological male competitors, and affirmed she would stand by her stance regardless of pushback. It shows how some groups display zero tolerance while claiming to promote acceptance. This owner isn't just managing a basketball franchise, she's running an activist platform that happens to field a team. They've endorsed political candidates, promoted specific social campaigns on their site and merchandise, and clearly enforced double standards, permitting certain political messaging while berating young girls who advocate for female-only sports. While I don't expect it, I would love to see the WNBA defend paying fans from this level of hostility. Her response contained no personal attacks, nor was any competitor or teammate singled out. It was a direct answer delivered in a calm, measured manner, reflecting deliberate thought rather than an impulsive comment. Yet, context in professional sports rarely stays neutral for long. Whether explicitly stated or implied, observers immediately tied her remarks to specific league dynamics. I think it's been awesome. Having played alongside BG for 6 seasons, I know her game inside out, and lately, she's been performing at an incredible level, playing like vintage Brittney. My goal is to show love, but I also advocate for biological women, and I believe those rights require protection. I'll remain firm in my core beliefs, but I've never claimed to hate the trans community. As I stated, there is space for everyone. If you've watched any Fever matchups against Connecticut this season, you already recognize the connection many fans drew. Over past seasons, Brittney Griner and Caitlin Clark have shared a tense on-court dynamic, marked by uncalled physical plays, bench interactions still analyzed frame by fans, and officiating patterns that noticeably shifted during their head-to-head games. So when Cunningham, Clark's closest teammate and most vocal protector, stated that biological men shouldn't compete in women's sports, the fanbase didn't need further explanation to connect the dots. The timing alone delivered most of the message. During game introductions, a segment of the crowd booed Cunningham as she subbed in. Meanwhile, a Seattle player arrived pre-game wearing a shirt supporting trans rights. Following the game, Storm head coach Sonia Rahman addressed the arena atmosphere. Seattle, this organization, and Climate Pledge Arena always strive to be a welcoming environment for everyone entering the building. We've consistently prioritized that, so I know our staff work directly with arena security to ensure all fans feel safe, included, and welcomed when attending. Griner herself hasn't publicly addressed the idea that Cunningham's comments were aimed at her. However, in a separate interview prior to the controversy blowing up, she noted that playing against Cunningham is exceptionally challenging on the floor. Interpret that as you will. Nevertheless, the online reaction to Cunningham's statements was immediate and widespread. You have Sophie Cunningham, an accomplished professional athlete, stepping forward to state what she believes is true, that biological men shouldn't play in women's sports to protect female athletes. Yet the backlash she's receiving from political commentators across the country is immense. Within 48 hours, the story expanded rapidly across major media outlets. It was covered by USA Today, analyzed on ESPN morning shows, and featured in a national segment on Fox News. Even the White House press secretary referenced the broader topic, noting that Cunningham's position aligns with where a majority of Americans stand. That is a massive national reaction stemming from a straightforward answer during a routine player feature, a dialogue reaching far beyond basketball circles. And Sophie never asked for the story to explode in that manner. I can't praise her enough. This idea that advocating for female sports means you hate the trans community is completely absurd. Sophie Cunningham spoke with absolute clarity and precision. There's no hostility involved, only love and fairness. But what about supporting biological women? What about their rights and competitive fairness? Look at cases like Leah Thomas, ranking outside the top 400 in male competitions, then transitioning and becoming number 1. Pretending that male-to-female transitions carry no physical advantages defies basic logic. What stands out most is how Cunningham handled the aftermath, setting her apart from many public figures facing similar pressure. Days later, when reporters revisited the topic, likely expecting her to soften her language or walk back her statements, she refused to backtrack. She reiterated her stance almost word for word, emphasizing that she harbors no hate and believes space exists for everyone, but asserting she won't alter her core convictions under pressure. That isn't the behavior of someone chasing attention, it's someone who answered a direct question honestly and stood by her words when pushback arrived. Coming out and publicly sharing her convictions at her age takes real courage, knowing it will be picked apart repeatedly, and standing firm afterward is incredibly refreshing to see from a young athlete. That brings the story back to Seattle, where an online debate transformed into a real-world incident involving a young spectator in front of a live audience. On paper, Tuesday's game between the Fever and the Storm should have centered purely on basketball. Outside Climate Pledge Arena before tip-off, a crowd gathered, some to express support for Cunningham, others supporting a local ballot initiative regarding fairness in female athletics. Supporters held banners and wore apparel featuring biological symbols, focusing on the broader sports policy debate rather than targeting individual players. Two of those young fans went inside and took courtside seats while holding a sign thanking Cunningham for advocating for female athletes. According to commentator Brandi Cruz, who interviewed them directly, a woman approached them during play, berated them, and had security remove them from their seats. The individual was subsequently identified as Celeste Kitten, a minority owner of the Storm. One of the fans shared that the sudden confrontation left her in tears before the game even concluded. "We had signs saying, 'Thank you Sophie for speaking up,' and we were just sitting there watching the game respectfully. We hadn't said anything to anyone, just holding our sign and cheering for both teams. Then an older woman approached us. At first I thought she was going to be friendly, but then she started making intense religious comments, telling us she hoped we could be forgiven for our sins. Then she called us completely insane, started shouting, and told us to put the sign away immediately. Consider the glaring double standard at play." Outside the building, crowds gathered with varying viewpoints, yet no one confronted attendees on the opposing side of the demonstration. As noted, paying spectators have every right to enter an arena wearing what they choose. Yet a co-owner of the home franchise personally confronted a teenage fan holding a peaceful thank you sign for a visiting player, demanding it be hidden in front of thousands of onlookers. "We traveled all the way from California because we believe in supporting female athletes. We had this idea to come to Seattle to show support for Sophie and stand up for women's sports, and Brandi helped make it happen. Our message is simple: women deserve dedicated spaces and sports of their own." That raises a fundamental question. Why does apparel advocating one side of an issue receive enthusiastic applause, while a simple sign thanking an athlete for supporting female sports gets a fan yelled at by team ownership? What does that say about the environment within certain sports organizations? The sign contained no profanity or personal attacks towards Storm players, it merely expressed agreement with Cunningham's message. In response to the incident, Storm majority owner Ginny Gilder issued a statement acknowledging that a co-owner had spoken to two fans, offering an apology while emphasizing that all attendees should feel welcome. Notice, however, what the statement omitted. It avoided naming Kitten directly, provided no specifics on what was actually said to the young fans, and omitted any discussion of internal accountability beyond a PR release. It read like a corporate effort to quietly move past an uncomfortable story rather than address what actually occurred on the concourse. Breaking news, Storm co-owner Celeste Kitten has been fined and suspended from attending the next 5 Seattle Storm home games following the incident with Fever fans where she confronted young supporters. That decision came directly from the league office, marking the latest update on this story. When you strip away the surrounding media noise, that's the core issue. Sophie Cunningham didn't manufacture this controversy, she gave a candid response to an interview question, reaffirmed her stance under pressure, and then saw a young fan treated like a disturbance simply for agreeing with her message. Team executives shouldn't confront paying spectators over signs or shirts, period. Regardless of where one stands on the debate, the fact that hostility was directed specifically at Cunningham supporters highlights how selectively tolerance is applied in certain league circles. Sophie Cunningham stated clearly that she wants to protect young girls in sports and locker rooms so they don't have to compete against biological men. Commentary attacking her for that stance is completely out of line. Biological men should not be competing in female sports categories, period. It shouldn't be treated as controversial or labeled as transphobia to acknowledge that biological males possess physical athletic advantages that women cannot match. Why don't we ever see biological females transitioning to compete in men's professional leagues? It's always biological males transitioning into female categories. Furthermore, this incident didn't occur in isolation, which explains why it resonated so widely. It happened roughly a week after another WNBA player saw a sudden reduction in playing time shortly after making her own public comments about protecting women's sports. A subtle benching here, a shift in rotation there, nothing official enough to trigger a formal inquiry, but enough quiet pressure to send a clear message to everyone else across the league. Nobody has an issue with trans individuals living their lives freely. But as Sophie pointed out, when it comes to athletics, biological women should compete against biological women, and men against men, simply because biological men are, on average, stronger and faster. When fans question why the WNBA appears to accommodate almost every perspective except Cunningham's, incidents like the one in Seattle keep the discussion alive. Her comments weren't radical, advocating for fair athletic competition and the preservation of female sports categories aligns with mainstream public opinion nationwide. Yet within certain league environments, expressing those views calmly and directly can turn an athlete into a target. Cunningham has now addressed the topic multiple times on camera, refusing to offer a diluted version of her convictions. Whether it's coaching staff quietly adjusting player minutes or team executives confronting emotional fans over a sign, the central question extends beyond Sophie herself. It comes down to whether the league will treat all fan perspectives with equal respect, or if polished press statements are simply used to sweep awkward headlines under the rug until the next controversy emerges.